Welcome back to J&M Paranormal, where we dare to venture into the chilling unknown. Gather around, for in the rain's embrace, secrets are revealed, mysteries come alive, and nightmares are born. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss a chilling tale. Get ready to be thrilled or chilled to the bone. Chapter 1. The Haunting Prelude. The moon hung heavy in the ink-black sky, casting an eerie glow over the desolate landscape. The wind whispered through the gnarled trees, their skeletal branches scratching at the fabric of reality itself. The old mansion loomed in the distance, its windows like empty, soulless eyes peering into the darkness. Emily Sanders had heard the rumors, the whispered tales that sent shivers down the spines of even the bravest souls. The mansion, known as Blackthorn Manor, had stood vacant for decades, a cursed relic of a forgotten era. It was said to be haunted, a place where the boundaries between the living and the dead were thin, where the echoes of past tragedies reverberated through the halls. But Emily was no stranger to darkness. With her raven-black hair and piercing green eyes, she had always been drawn to the mysteries that lurked in the shadows. She had spent years studying the occult, seeking out the unknown and the unexplainable. And now, standing at the edge of the overgrown path that led to Blackthorn Manor, she felt a mixture of excitement and trepidation that sent her heart racing. The path was overgrown with twisted vines and thorns, a physical barrier that seemed to be guarding the secrets of the mansion. Emily's footsteps were muffled by the damp earth as she made her way closer, her breath catching in her throat as the mansion's grandeur came into view. Its once white façade was now marred by time and decay, the ornate details now warped and crumbling. As she stepped through the grand entrance, a chill ran down Emily's spine. The air inside was thick and musty, carrying with it the weight of centuries. Moonlight filtered through broken windows, casting eerie shapes on the walls. Emily's flashlight flickered to life, its feeble beam cutting through the darkness as she cautiously explored the ground floor. Rooms lay frozen in time, their furnishings draped in dusty sheets. It was as if the mansion itself was holding its breath, waiting for something to happen. Emily's footsteps echoed in the silence as she climbed a grand staircase, the wood groaning beneath her weight. She couldn't shake the feeling that she was being watched, that unseen eyes were following her every move. At the end of a dimly lit hallway, Emily discovered a door slightly ajar. With a mixture of trepidation and curiosity, she pushed it open, revealing a room that seemed untouched by the passage of time. Moonlight poured through a large window, illuminating a grand four-poster bed. The air was heavy with the scent of roses, the faded wallpaper adorned with delicate floral patterns. But it was the mirror that drew Emily's attention. A full-length mirror, its glass, wavy and tarnished, stood against one wall. As Emily approached it, her reflection stared back at her, her green eyes wide with a mixture of fascination and fear. And then, as if from the depths of a nightmare, another figure began to materialize beside her in the mirror, a figure shrouded in darkness, its features obscured by a tattered veil. Emily's heart pounded in her chest as she stumbled back, her flashlight slipping from her trembling hand and casting erratic beams of light around the room. The figure in the mirror seemed to beckon to her, its form shifting and contorting with unnatural grace. A cold breeze swept through the room, extinguishing the flashlight's flickering beam, plunging Emily into darkness. With a strangled spasm, Emily turned and fled from the room, her footsteps echoing through the mansion as she raced down the hallway and back toward the grand entrance. The air seemed to thicken around her, the walls closing in as if the very mansion itself was alive and trying to trap her within its sinister embrace. As Emily burst through the front doors and stumbled out onto the path, she dared not look back. The moonlight cast her elongated shadow before her, a distorted reflection of the terror that still gripped her heart. Blackthorn Manor loomed behind her, a malevolent presence that seemed to watch her escape with a sense of cruel satisfaction. And so, the stage was set. Emily Sanders had unknowingly stepped into a world where the boundaries between the living and the dead were blurred, where the past held a vice-like grip on the present. As the wind whispered its mournful secrets through the trees, and the mansion stood as a silent sentinel to its own haunting, Emily could only wonder what other horrors awaited her in the nights to come. Chapter 2: Echoes of the Past. The sun's feeble light struggled to penetrate the heavy mist that clung to the landscape the following morning. Emily awoke in her small, dimly lit room, her heart still racing from the horrors she had witnessed within Blackthorn Manor. The events of the previous night felt like a fevered dream, but the lingering unease in her bones confirmed their chilling reality. Determined to make sense of the inexplicable, Emily spent the day researching the history of Blackthorn Manor. The local library held a trove of dusty tomes and fragile manuscripts that spoke of the mansion's dark past. She discovered that the mansion had once belonged to the enigmatic Blackthorn family, known for their reclusive and eccentric behavior. According to the records, a tragedy had befallen the family over a century ago. The youngest daughter, Isabella Blackthorn, had been found dead under mysterious circumstances within the mansion. The official accounts spoke of an accident, but rumors whispered of something more sinister, a malevolent presence that had claimed the young girl's life. As Emily delved deeper into the history, she found mention of a series of unexplained deaths and disappearances associated with Blackthorn Manor. The air around the mansion seemed to carry a curse that lingered like a shadow, waiting to ensnare those who dared to cross its threshold. Nightfall approached once again, and Emily felt a mixture of dread and curiosity tugging at her. Armed with the knowledge she had gathered, she returned to the mansion, her heart pounding as she stepped through its grand entrance. Moonlight spilled through broken windows, casting elongated shadows that seemed to dance in the corners of her vision. With her flashlight in hand, Emily retraced her steps, guided by a strange compulsion to return to the room with the mirror. The air in the mansion had grown colder, and Emily's breath misted in front of her as she ascended the grand staircase. The hallway stretched out before her like a tunnel of darkness, each step echoing in the silence. As Emily entered the room, the mirror loomed before her like an ominous portal. She hesitated for a moment, the memories of the figure in the mirror still fresh in her mind. But a determination burned within her, a need to confront the unknown, to unravel the mysteries that had entwined her fate with the mansions. She approached the mirror cautiously, her breath catching in her throat as her reflection stared back at her. She half expected the shadowy figure to reappear, but the mirror remained still, its glass only reflecting the room's dim light. With a deep breath, Emily reached out and touched the tarnished surface, her fingertips tracing the delicate patterns etched into the frame. A shiver ran down her spine as she felt a strange sensation, as if the mirror itself held a secret longing to reveal. She stared into her own eyes, her reflection seeming to waver and distort. And then, as if emerging from the depths of the mirror's murky glass, a whisper of movement caught her attention. Emily's heart skipped a beat as she watched the room behind her reflection shift and change. The grand four-poster bed faded away, replaced by a vision of opulent furnishings and vibrant tapestries. The room seemed to come alive with echoes of the past, as if the mirror was a portal to another time. And there, in the reflection, stood a figure, a young girl with raven black hair and piercing green eyes. Isabella Blackthorn. Her gaze was mournful, her expression haunted by a sadness that transcended the ages. Emily could almost feel the weight of Isabella's sorrow, a connection forged across time and space. As the vision faded, Emily stumbled back, her heart racing. The room returned to its dilapidated state, the mirror once again reflecting only the present. Emily's mind whirled with a mix of fear and fascination. It was as if the mirror had offered her a glimpse into the past, a glimpse of the tragedy that had plagued the Blackthorn family. As she retreated from the room, Emily couldn't shake the feeling that Isabella's spirit still lingered within the mansion, trapped in a never-ending cycle of torment. And with that unsettling realization, Emily knew that her journey into the heart of the haunting was only just beginning, that the secrets of Blackthorn Manor were far more twisted and entangled than she could have ever imagined. Chapter 3: Whispers of the Forgotten. Days turned into nights, and Emily's obsession with Blackthorn Manor grew stronger. The lines between her reality and the mansion's haunted history became increasingly blurred, as if the two were inexorably intertwined. She spent her waking hours poring over ancient texts and documents, determined to uncover the truth behind Isabella Blackthorn's tragic demise. Each night, Emily returned to the mansion, drawn back by an unseen force that seemed to tug at her very soul. The echoes of Isabella's presence haunted her, a constant reminder of the girl who had met a grim fate within these walls. Emily's dreams were haunted too, visions of Isabella's sorrowful eyes and the chilling figure that had materialized in the mirror. On one particularly stormy night, Emily ventured deeper into the mansion, guided by a faint whisper that seemed to beckon her toward an unexplored wing. The air grew thicker, charged with an otherworldly energy that sent a shiver down her spine. The walls seemed to pulse with a quiet desperation, as if the mansion itself yearned to unburden its secrets. Emily's flashlight illuminated a grand corridor, its faded wallpaper peeling away to reveal intricate patterns underneath. Portraits of stern-faced Blackthorn ancestors lined the walls, their eyes following her every move with an unsettling intensity. She pushed open a heavy wooden door and entered a room that seemed untouched by time. The room was a study, its walls lined with shelves of decaying books and dusty artifacts. In the center of the room, an ornate desk stood as a solitary sentinel, its surface covered in yellowed parchment and faded ink. As Emily approached, she noticed a journal resting on the desk, its pages filled with elegant script. Curiosity piqued, Emily picked up the journal and began to read. The entries were written by Isabella herself, chronicling her life within the mansion and her growing sense of unease. Isabella spoke of strange occurrences, whispers that seemed to emanate from the walls, glimpses of shadowy figures that vanished when she turned to look. One entry, dated just days before Isabella's death, spoke of a mirror, the same mirror that Emily had encountered. Isabella described a figure that appeared in the mirror, a figure that beckoned to her with a haunting familiarity. The entries grew increasingly frantic, Isabella's words becoming disjointed as her fear consumed her. Tears welled in Emily's eyes as she read Isabella's final entry. The words were a desperate plea, a plea for someone to understand the torment she had endured, the malevolent presence that had driven her to the brink of madness. And then journal abruptly ended, leaving Emily with a sense of profound sadness for the girl who had suffered so deeply. A sudden gust of wind extinguished the candle on the desk, plunging the room into darkness. Emily's heart raced as she fumbled for her flashlight, its beam revealing a figure standing at the doorway. It was Isabella, her ethereal form bathed in an otherworldly glow. Her eyes held a mixture of longing and sorrow, her voice a whisper on the edge of perception. "Help me," Isabella's voice echoed, carrying with it the weight of 100 years of pain. Emily's breath caught in her throat as she reached out, her fingers passing through the spectral figure. The room seemed to vibrate with energy, the very fabric of reality warping around them. Isabella's form began to fade, her voice growing fainter as if being carried away by the wind. "Don't forget me, Izzy." Bella's fading words lingered in the air, and then she was gone, leaving Emily alone in the darkened room. Tears streamed down Emily's face as she clutched the journal to her chest. She had glimpsed the truth, felt the presence of Isabella's tortured spirit. The mansion's secrets was becoming clearer, its history unraveling before her eyes. But the more Emily uncovered, the more she realized that she had become inexorably entangled in the web of the Blackthorne family's tragic past. As the storm outside raged on, Emily knew that she had embarked on a perilous journey, one that would lead her deeper into the heart of the haunting. Blackthorne Manor held its secrets close, but Emily was determined to uncover them, no matter the cost. The mansion's walls whispered of forgotten sorrows and hidden truths, and Emily was determined to listen, even if it meant confronting the darkness that had claimed Isabella's soul. Chapter 4: Unseen Forces. The days that followed Isabella's spectral visit were fraught with a growing sense of urgency. Emily's nights were filled with restless dreams, visions of Isabella's anguished face and the oppressive atmosphere of Blackthorne Manor. Determined to uncover the truth behind the haunting, Emily delved deeper into her research, seeking out every scrap of information that might shed light on the Blackthorne family's tragic past. As Emily pored over the old texts and manuscripts, a name caught her attention, a name that seemed to reverberate through the pages of history like an ominous echo. Madeline Blackthorne, Isabella's elder sister, had been largely forgotten by the annals of time. But as Emily dug deeper, she discovered that Madeline's existence had been shrouded in mystery and speculation. Legend spoke of Madeline's obsession with the occult and her relentless pursuit of forbidden knowledge. She was rumored to have dabbled in dark rituals and arcane practices, delving into realms beyond the comprehension of mortals. Whispers of a pact with malevolent entities circulated among the few who dared to speak of her name. Driven by an insatiable curiosity, Emily embarked on a journey to unravel Madeline's enigmatic story. She followed leads to dusty archives and hidden libraries, piecing together fragments of the past, like a puzzle waiting to be solved. Her path led her deeper into the heart of darkness, until she found herself standing once again before the imposing Fayade of Blackthorne Manor. The moon hung low in the sky as Emily crossed the threshold, her steps guided by an invisible hand. The air inside the mansion was heavy with anticipation, as if the very walls were aware of her purpose. She made her way to the room that had become a focal point of her investigation, the room with the mirror that held a connection to Isabella's torment. As Emily stood before the mirror, a hushed whisper filled the air, carrying with it a chilling breeze that seemed to emanate from the glass itself. The mirror's surface rippled like water, distorting her reflection until it was replaced by a vision of a young woman with raven black hair, Madeline Blackthorne. Madeline's eyes held a mesmerizing intensity, a blend of determination and desperation. Her voice, a haunting echo from the past, filled the room. "You seek the truth, child," she whispered, her words seeming to reverberate through the very fabric of reality. "But do you truly understand the darkness that lies beneath?" Emily's heart raced as she listened, her voice quivering as she replied, "I seek to understand the truth, no matter how dark or unsettling it may be." Madeline's spectral form seemed to waver, the edges of her figure blending with the shadows that danced around the room. "The truth is a double-edged sword," she intoned. "To unravel the mysteries of this place is to invite the wrath of forces beyond your comprehension." With those cryptic words, the vision of Madeline began to fade. the mirror's surface returning to its normal state. Emily was left standing alone in the dimly lit room, her mind racing with a tumultuous mix of fear and determination. The mansion seemed to pulse with an almost palpable energy, as if it held the weight of centuries of secrets within its walls. Emily knew that the path she had chosen was fraught with danger, that the forces at play were far more potent and sinister than she'd initially realized. But she was resolved to confront the darkness head-on, to uncover the truth that had eluded so many before her. As she left the room and made her way back through the mansion's labyrinthine halls, Emily couldn't shake the feeling that unseen eyes were watching her every move. The echoes of Isabella's and Madeline's tormented spirits seemed to reverberate through the air, a chorus of voices that urged her forward, deeper into the heart of the haunting. With each step, Emily's resolve hardened. She was determined to uncover the full extent of the Blackthorn family's secrets, to confront the malevolent forces that had ensnared their souls. The mansion's walls held stories of sorrow and darkness, and Emily was determined to bring them to light, no matter the cost. The shadows may have deepened, but her determination burned brighter than ever before. Escape from the Veiled Enclave. In the remote heart of the forest, nestled within a thick shroud of trees, lay a hidden enclave known only as the Veiled Enclave. It was said to be a sanctuary for seekers of enlightenment, a place where like-minded individuals could gather to embrace a life of purpose and devotion. Many came seeking solace, reassurance, and a sense of belonging, lured by tales of a charismatic leader named Father Seraphis. He was renowned for his persuasive words and charismatic presence, drawing people into his fold with the promise of a better life. Lena, a young woman wary of her mundane existence, was drawn into the Veiled Enclave's allure. The lush greenery and seemingly idyllic surroundings concealed the harsh reality that awaited her. The daily rituals, communal living, and Father Seraphis's teachings gradually ensnared her. Lena forged connections with fellow devotees like Maria and Luke, forming bonds that would prove crucial in her escape. As time passed, cracks began to appear in the fayade of the Veiled Enclave. Lena noticed inconsistencies in Father Seraphis's teachings, and whispers of dissatisfaction circulated among the members. Maria and Luke, once steadfast, began to express doubts, planting the seeds of rebellion. Together, they uncovered hidden truths about the Enclave's sinister underbelly, including its reliance on manipulation and control. One moonlit night, Lena, Maria, and Luke executed a daring escape plan. Armed with knowledge of the Enclave's routines and god patterns, they chose their moment carefully. Silent as ghosts, they slipped through the shadows, evading the watchful eyes of the cult's enforcers. Every snap of a twig, every rustle of leaves heightened their anxiety. Time seemed to stretch endlessly as they navigated the treacherous forest, their hearts racing. The cult's relentless pursuit echoed through the woods as Lena and her companions raced against the dawn. Fear clawed at their throats, but determination fueled their steps. Eventually, they stumbled upon a small, run-down cabin, a haven of refuge. Inside, they found an old woman, a former member of the Veiled Enclave who had managed to escape years before. She shared tales of manipulation, coercion, and the lengths to which the cult would go to keep its secrets hidden. Armed with the wisdom of their newfound ally, Lena, Maria, and Luke began the process of reclaiming their lives. They vowed to expose the Veiled Enclave's true nature, offering others a chance to break free from its clutches. With the old woman's guidance, they gathered evidence and shared their harrowing experiences with the world. The Veiled Enclave's true nature was unveiled to the public, shocking many who had been captivated by its illusion. Investigations revealed a web of lies, manipulation, and exploitation orchestrated by Father Seraphis. Lena, Maria, and Luke became beacons of hope for those who had fallen victim to the cult's deceitful charms, helping them to rebuild their shattered lives. The forest, once a place of entrapment, became a symbol of resilience and liberation. The tale of Lena and her companions served as a reminder that even in the darkest corners, the human spirit could triumph over manipulation and fear, inspiring others to stand up against the shadows that sought to control them. Abduction, torn from reality. On a desolate stretch of highway, surrounded by the dark expanse of a moonless night, Sarah's car sputtered to a stop. Her heart raced as panic set in. She was stranded in the middle of nowhere, miles away from the nearest town. The air was heavy with an eerie stillness, and a chill crawled up her spine as she stepped out of the vehicle to assess the situation. Sarah's phone displayed no signal, leaving her isolated in a realm of darkness and uncertainty. A distant light caught her attention, a single, flickering orb that seemed to hover just above the tree line. Bewildered and desperate for help, she stumbled toward it, her steps unsteady on the uneven ground. As she drew closer, the light intensified, casting an otherworldly glow that revealed a circular clearing. In its center stood a towering metallic structure, its surface etched with alien symbols that seemed to pulse with a sinister energy. Sarah's breath caught in her throat as a cacophony of strange sounds filled the air, a discordant symphony of clicks, hums, and eerie whispers. Her heart raced as a sensation of weightlessness overcame her, and she felt herself being lifted off the ground. Panic surged through her veins as her body defied gravity, levitating toward the sinister structure. She struggled against the unseen force, her limbs flailing as terror consumed her. With a sudden jolt, Sarah found herself within the metallic confines of the alien vessel. The walls pulsed with an unsettling rhythm, and the air was thick with a metallic scent that made her stomach churn. She stumbled down a corridor, her footsteps echoing in the eerie silence. The corridor led to a dimly lit chamber where grotesque figures stood hunched over intricate control panels. Their elongated limbs and misshapen forms sent a wave of revulsion through Sarah. Their eyes glowed with a terrifying intelligence, fixating on her with a hunger that sent shivers down her spine. Sarah's voice trembled as she demanded answers, her pleas met with an unsettling chorus of guttural laughter. In a nightmarish sequence, the beings surrounded her, their cold fingers probing her flesh. She fought against their invasive touch, her screams echoing through the chamber. Time blurred as Sarah's perception shifted, her mind subjected to a torrent of horrifying visions. She witnessed the destruction of worlds, the torment of civilizations, and the insidious machinations of an ancient malevolence that defied comprehension. The alien's twisted agenda became clear, to harness her fear, to feed on her terror. As the ordeal continued, Sarah's sanity teetered on the brink of collapse. She clung to shreds of her humanity, desperately seeking an escape from the nightmare that had ensnared her. With a surge of strength, born of sheer desperation, she broke free from the alien's grip and fled through the twisting corridors. Her flight led her to a room bathed in an eerie, pulsating light. Before her stood a towering monolith, its surface inscribed with grotesque imagery that seared itself into her mind. Sarah's vision blurred as her thoughts were invaded by a malevolent force, an entity that sought to consume her very essence. With a final surge of willpower, Sarah screamed, channeling every ounce of her fear and defiance. The monolith shattered with a deafening roar, the vessel's very reality unraveling as its sinister inhabitants writhed in agony. Reality itself seemed to fold in on itself, and with a blinding flash of light, Sarah found herself back on the desolate highway, her car running smoothly once more. Trembling and disoriented, Sarah sped away from the nightmare that had ensnared her. She reached civilization, her story met with skepticism and disbelief, but the scars on her psyche remained, a haunting reminder of the unspeakable horror she had endured. Sarah became a recluse, forever haunted by the eldritch terror of her abduction. She would often wake in the dead of night, drenched in cold sweat, the echoes of alien laughter and the pulsating glow of the metallic monolith etched into her nightmares. In the end, she became a cautionary tale, a chilling testament to the unknown horrors that lurk beyond the boundaries of human comprehension. The sinister circus smiled. In a forgotten corner of a sleepy town, a dilapidated circus tent stood, weathered and worn. Its faded red and white stripes seemed to whisper tales of long-lost laughter and spectacles that once dazzled the night. Locals spoke of the sinister aura that surrounded the circus, warning each other to stay away from its decaying grounds. Yet, curiosity often triumphed over fear, and on one moonless night, a group of adventurous teenagers decided to explore the cursed carnival. Amidst the eerie mist that clung to the air, the teens cautiously entered the tent. The flickering lantern they carried cast unsettling shadows on the frayed canvas walls. The scent of musty hay mixed with a faint metallic tang filled their senses, making their skin crawl. The distant echoes of laughter and applause seemed to bounce off the walls, a haunting reminder of the circus's former glory. In the center of the tent, a spotlight suddenly illuminated a wooden stage. A figure appeared under the harsh light, its grotesque features becoming painfully clear. A clown with a twisted smile painted across its chalk-white face. Its eyes, devoid of warmth or humanity, glowed like two malevolent orbs in the dim light. As if drawn by an invisible force, the teens found themselves unable to look away from the clown. Its lips curved into an unsettling grin that seemed to stretch impossibly wider with each passing moment. Its movements were unnatural, like a marionette controlled by an unseen puppeteer. The air grew colder, and the very atmosphere seemed to thicken with a sense of impending doom. A low, haunting melody began to fill the air, emanating from an old music box placed at the clown's feet. The teens felt a chilling dread settle in their chests as the discordant tune wrapped around their minds, clouding their thoughts and leaving them paralyzed. One by one, the teenagers felt an overwhelming urge to step onto the stage. They stumbled forward, their movements sluggish and unsteady. The clown's smile seemed to grow impossibly wider, as if feeding on their fear and vulnerability. Its eyes bore into their souls, trapping them in a nightmarish trance. As the teens stood before the clown, their minds began to unravel. Memories twisted and distorted, and their identities began to blur into a grotesque collage of pain and horror. The clown's laughter, a haunting cacophony of shrill, deranged glee, echoed through the tent, drowning out their feeble cries for help. Time lost all meaning as the teens became ensnared in the clown's malevolent grip. Days turned into nights, and their sanity unraveled like frayed threads. Their eyes took on the same vacant, soulless gaze as the clown's, and their bodies danced to the nightmarish melody, limbs contorting in unnatural ways. The townspeople noticed the disappearances, but their warnings went unheard. It was as if the circus had ensnared the entire town in its malevolent grasp. No one dared to venture near the cursed tent, the sinister clown's laughter serving as a chilling reminder of the horrors that lurked within. And so, the forgotten circus continued to cast its shadow over the town, its curse perpetuating as the twisted clown claimed more victims, each one adding to the haunting chorus of lost souls trapped within its decaying walls. The sinister circus smile would forever be etched into the town's history as a grim reminder of the darkness that could consume even the bravest of hearts. Abyssal descent. The wind howled mercilessly, whipping the surface of the ocean into a frenzy of frothy waves. The sky, once a serene blue canvas, had transformed into a swirling mass of dark clouds that threatened to consume everything in their path. The boat, a small fishing vessel named Sealark, bobbed and creaked as it struggled against the fury of the storm. Captain Robert Sawyer tightened his grip on the wheel, his knuckles white with strain. The rain pounded down relentlessly, stinging his skin like 1,000 needles. His crew, A group of weathered fishermen clung to the deck, their eyes wide with fear. It was a nightmare they couldn't escape. "Steady, men," Captain Sawyer shouted over the deafening roar of the tempest. "We've weathered storms before. Just hold on." But this was no ordinary storm. As the waves grew taller and more ferocious, a colossal wall of water suddenly rose before them, a towering monster that seemed to defy the laws of nature. The Sea Loch was lifted high into the air, and for a moment, time seemed to stand still. Then, with a sickening crash, the boat capsized, its hull groaning in protest as it succumbed to the power of the sea. Water rushed in, drowning the interior of the boat in darkness. The crew fought to escape their watery prison, gasping for air as they were tossed about like rag dolls. Desperation and panic consumed them, and the once unbreakable bonds of camaraderie dissolved into a frenzy of self-preservation. In the chaos, Captain Sawyer found himself separated from the rest of the crew. He struggled to the surface, his lungs burning, and gulped down precious air. The storm raged on, and he could see nothing but towering waves that seemed to stretch into eternity. Days turned into nights, and nights into days. The crew members clung to whatever debris they could find, their bodies growing weak and emaciated. Hunger gnawed at their insides, and the constant exposure to the elements took its toll on their sanity. The once vibrant spirits of these men had been crushed by the weight of the ocean's merciless embrace. Captain Sawyer's mind began to play tricks on him. He would hear voices on the wind, whispers that seemed to call his name from the depths. He would catch glimpses of shadowy figures just beneath the surface, their pale faces contorted in agony. And then, one by one, his crewmates began to disappear. One night, as Captain Sawyer lay on a piece of driftwood, staring up at the stars that felt a universe away, he saw something that made his blood run cold. A shape, massive and indistinct, moved beneath the surface of the water. It was unlike anything he had ever seen before, a creature of nightmares that seemed to embody the very essence of the ocean's wrath. The creature's eyes, gleaming like two orbs of malevolent fire, fixed on Captain Sawyer. It rose from the depths, its gargantuan form casting a shadow over the moonlit waves. Captain Sawyer's heart pounded in his chest, and he knew that this was the end. He closed his eyes, waiting for the inevitable embrace of the abyss. But then, just as suddenly as it had appeared, the creature vanished beneath the waves. The storm began to subside, and the sea grew calm once more. And in the distance, a faint light glimmered on the horizon, a rescue ship sent by fate or some other force to pluck Captain Sawyer from the brink of oblivion. As Captain Sawyer was lifted aboard the rescue ship, he turned his gaze back to the empty expanse of water that had been their tomb. The Sea Loch and its crew were lost to the sea, claimed by its unfathomable depths. And as the rescue ship sailed away, Captain Sawyer couldn't help but wonder if the horrors he had witnessed were real or the delusions of a mind pushed to its limits by the terror of the unknown. The haunting whispers of desolation. In the heart of a quiet, picturesque town stood a majestic yet foreboding mansion known as Blackthorn Manor. It had a history marred by darkness and whispered tales of inexplicable occurrences that sent shivers down the spines of anyone who dared to pass by its ominous gates. For generations, the Blackthorn family had inhabited the mansion, their fortune and status gradually crumbling with time. It was during the final days of the last surviving Blackthorn heir, Emily, that the house seemed to change. Residents reported seeing eerie shadows moving across windows, and strange, mournful cries echoed through the night. One fateful evening, as a storm raged outside, a group of curious teenagers, including the skeptical Sarah, adventurous Mark, cautious Alex, and empathetic Lisa, decided to unravel the secrets of Blackthorn Manor. Armed with flashlights and a sense of intrigue, they ventured into the decaying halls. As they crossed the threshold, A heavy silence enveloped them. Despite their initial bravado, unease gnawed at the edges of their confidence. The flickering candlelight revealed walls adorned with twisted portraits of long-forgotten Blackthorn ancestors, their faces contorted into sinister expressions. Descending into the labyrinthine basement, they stumbled upon an ancient, forgotten journal. Its pages revealed a harrowing tale of a pact made with a demonic entity in exchange for power and immortality. As they read, a distant whisper seemed to drift through the air, causing their hearts to race. Ignoring the growing sense of dread, they pressed on. A sudden gust of wind extinguished their candles, plunging them into darkness. Panic surged through their veins, and they fumbled to relight their candles. In the eerie glow, they saw the faint outline of a pentagram etched onto the floor, surrounded by cryptic symbols. As they continued their exploration, the presence of an otherworldly force grew stronger. Shadows seemed to dance, melding into grotesque shapes that watched their every move. Each step forward became a struggle against the suffocating weight of malevolence that clung to the mansion's walls. Lisa's empathetic nature made her particularly susceptible to the spiritual turmoil that enveloped them. She began to hear faint cries and whispers that grew louder with every passing moment. It was as if the tormented souls of the Blackthorn family were reaching out from the depths of despair, seeking release. A sudden and violent force knocked Mark to the ground, leaving him writhing in pain. His eyes glowed with an unnatural malevolence as his voice morphed into a guttural growl, spewing hateful words. The demon, long dormant, had found its vessel. The demonic possession had begun. Desperation pushed Sarah, Alex, and Lisa to confront the dark force that had taken hold of Mark. Armed with symbols of protection and the knowledge they had gained from the journal, they embarked on a perilous journey to banish the demon back to the depths of darkness. The battle between light and darkness raged within the walls of Blackthorn Manor, a symphony of screams and moans filling the air. The mansion itself seemed to come alive, its very foundation shaking with the intensity of the struggle. In the end, the combined strength of their resolve and the knowledge they had unearthed proved to be their only salvation. As dawn broke and the last echoes of the demonic presence faded, Blackthorn Manor stood in solemn silence. The teenagers emerged, battered and exhausted, but victorious. The mansion, once a bastion of evil, was now tainted no more. But the horror of their ordeal remained etched in their minds, a testament to the darkness that had lingered within the walls of Blackthorn Manor for generations. And as they walked away, the whispers of desolation that had haunted the mansion for so long slowly faded into a distant memory, a tale to be passed down through generations as a warning of the dangers that lie in the pursuit of power at any cost. The abyssal carousel. As the sun dipped beneath the horizon, casting eerie shadows across the carnival grounds, a sense of anticipation hung heavy in the air. The annual fall carnival had arrived, and with it, the infamous attraction known only as the Abyssal Carousel. Whispers of its spine-chilling reputation spread like wildfire among the townsfolk, yet each year, a daring few were drawn to its enigmatic allure. Eva, a thrill-seeker with a penchant for the macabre, had heard tales of the Abyssal Carousel and could not resist its sinister call. Clad in a leather jacket and combat boots, she strode purposefully towards the ominous tent that housed the ride. Its entrance was framed by twisted wrought iron, the rusted bars casting elongated shadows that seemed to reach out like skeletal fingers. The interior of the tent was a cavern of darkness, punctuated by the dim glow of flickering lanterns. The air was thick with an unsettling dampness, and a low, haunting melody played on loop, each note sending shivers down Eva's spine. She purchased a ticket from the masked ticket vendor, whose hollow eyes seemed to pierce her very soul. Eva stepped onto the platform, where an antique carousel waited. The horses were not your typical fairground steeds. Their eyes glowed with an otherworldly light, and their skeletal forms were adorned with cracked and peeling paint. She chose a horse near the back, the one with the deepest shade of crimson and an ornate saddle that seemed out of place amidst the eerie atmosphere. As the carousel began to turn, the world around Eva melted away. The lanterns cast eerie shadows that danced along the walls, their movements mirroring the sinister ballet of the ride. The haunting melody grew louder, each note punctuated by a chorus of haunting whispers that seemed to echo through the very fabric of reality. Eva's heart raced as the carousel picked up speed, the wind whipping through her hair and chilling her to the bone. The world became a blur of distorted shapes and twisted images, a nightmarish collage of forgotten memories and forbidden desires. She tried to close her eyes, to shut out the terror that surrounded her, but an unseen force held her gaze fixed upon the macabre tableau. The horse's eyes glowed brighter, casting an otherworldly light that revealed the true nature of the ride. The figures on the carousel were not just lifeless horses. They were grotesque amalgamations of human and animal forms, frozen in agonizing poses of despair. Their twisted limbs and contorted expressions told stories of tortured souls trapped within the eternal cycle of the carousel. Eva's screams were drowned out by the cacophony of anguished wails that echoed through the tent. She tried to dismount, but the ornate saddle had fused with her clothing, binding her to the monstrous creation. Panic surged through her veins as the carousel spun faster and faster, its maddening rhythm becoming a hypnotic trance. Time lost all meaning as the ride spiraled deeper into the abyss. Eva's mind fractured, her sense of self unraveling as she became one with the nightmarish symphony. The line between reality and delusion blurred, and she felt herself slipping away into the abyssal void. Suddenly, with a jarring halt, the carousel came to a stop. Eva's surroundings shifted, and she found herself standing alone in the pitch-black darkness of the carnival tent. The haunting melody had ceased, replaced by an eerie silence that seemed to stretch into eternity. Eva's breath hitched as she realized she had escaped the clutches of the abyssal carousel. Her heart pounded in her chest, and she stumbled towards the exit, desperate to escape the horrors she'd witnessed. As she emerged from the tent, the first rays of dawn pierced the horizon, bathing the carnival grounds in a pale, ethereal light. The townsfolk began to gather, their faces a mixture of curiosity and concern. They had heard the rumors, seen the darkness that clung to the abyssal carousel, yet Eva stood before them, a living testament to the terrors that lay within. Her haunted eyes and trembling voice recounted the horrors she had experienced, a warning to all who dared to seek the thrill of the unknown. And so, the abyssal carousel remained, a cursed and enigmatic attraction that continued to draw the daring and the foolish alike. Its true nature remained shrouded in mystery, a dark secret that whispered of unspeakable horrors lurking just beneath the surface. Those who ventured too close would forever be changed, their souls forever entwined with the malevolent forces that called the abyssal carousel home. Shrouded in darkness, the old Victorian house at the edge of town had always intrigued the locals with its eerie reputation. Abandoned for decades, it stood as a silent sentinel of a forgotten era. One fateful night, a group of adventurous teenagers decided to explore the decaying mansion, despite the chilling tales that surrounded it. As the clock struck midnight, the moonlight cast ominous shadows upon the creaking structure. Alex, Sarah, and Jake, armed with flashlights and brave determination, entered the mansion's dimly lit foyer. The air was thick with mustiness and a sense of foreboding. The group ventured deeper into the house, uncovering ornate furniture draped in dusty sheets and faded portraits that seemed to watch them with hollow eyes. As they climbed a grand staircase, their flashlights flickered, casting eerie beams that danced along the cracked walls. In a small, desolate room on the second floor, they discovered a peculiar book bound in leather. Its pages were filled with incomprehensible symbols and chilling incantations. Ignoring the warnings etched into the ancient pages, Alex read aloud a passage that sent shivers down their spines. Suddenly, a sinister gust of wind extinguished their flashlights, plunging the room into darkness. Panic gripped them as strange whispers echoed from the shadows. A flicker of movement caught their attention, and their trembling eyes fixed on a figure standing in the corner, a silhouette with glowing red eyes. A guttural voice emanated from the figure, chilling their souls. "You have awakened me from my slumber," it hissed. "Foolish mortals, you shall be my vessels." Before they could react, an unseen force seized control of their bodies. Their limbs moved against their will, and their voices were stolen by an otherworldly presence. Their eyes turned a malevolent shade of crimson, mirroring the demonic entity's gaze. The possessed teenagers became instruments of horror, unleashing a reign of terror upon the town. Their actions grew increasingly grotesque and horrifying as the demon reveled in its newfound power. Darkness engulfed the town as the malevolent force spread, feeding on fear and despair. Desperation grew among the townspeople as they witnessed the relentless onslaught. A local priest, Father Thomas, recognized the signs of demonic possession and vowed to confront the evil that had taken root. Armed with ancient texts and unwavering faith, Father Thomas entered the cursed mansion. The air grew thick with tension as he confronted the possessed trio in a final, chilling showdown. The demon's laughter echoed through the dilapidated halls as a battle of wills ensued, a battle between the righteous and the infernal. In a climactic struggle, Father Thomas recited an exorcism ritual, channeling the divine light to banish the demon's influence. The mansion trembled as the malevolent force fought back, but the priest's unwavering faith prevailed. The red-eyed specter was vanquished, and the possessed teenagers collapsed to the floor, their eyes returning to their natural state. As dawn broke, the town awoke from its nightmarish ordeal. The mansion's dark influence lifted, and a sense of relief washed over the once terrified community. The story of the demonic possession would be retold for generations, a cautionary tale of the dangers that lurk in the shadows. But the memory of that haunting night would forever linger, a reminder that even the bravest souls can be ensnared by the malevolent forces that lie dormant, waiting for an opportunity to awaken and spread their darkness once more. Temporal Echoes. In the year 2147, Dr. Eleanor Price had successfully cracked the code to time travel. It was hailed as a groundbreaking achievement that promised to reshape the course of humanity's history. With her team of dedicated scientists, Eleanor built a device known as the Temporal Conduit. It was a massive, metallic chamber that hummed with energy, standing as a gateway to the past. Eleanor was the first to step through the conduit. The air crackled with anticipation as she emerged on the other side, her surroundings twisting and warping. She found herself in a quaint Victorian-era town, but something felt wrong. Shadows danced menacingly along the cobblestone streets, and the atmosphere was thick with a palpable sense of dread. Eleanor quickly realized that she was not alone. A figure, shrouded in darkness, approached her. Its eyes gleamed with an otherworldly intensity, and its voice seemed to reverberate through her mind. "Welcome, Dr. Price," the figure hissed. "You've trespassed into the realms beyond time, a place where the past and future converge. But be warned, your actions have consequences, and the threads of time are fragile." Eleanor's heart raced as she struggled to comprehend the entity's words. It spoke of temporal anomalies and distortions that threatened to unravel the very fabric of existence. The figure offered her a chilling choice: return to her time and seal the conduit forever, or venture deeper into the enigmatic realm of time. Eleanor's curiosity got the better of her, and she chose to explore further. Each leap through time revealed more disturbing scenes, echoes of forgotten tragedies and horrors that had been buried by the sands of time. In ancient battlefields, she witnessed soldiers being consumed by a relentless darkness. In futuristic landscapes, she saw cities reduced to rubble by unknown catastrophes. As she traveled, Eleanor began to experience inexplicable phenomena. She saw glimpses of herself at different points in her journey, each version haunted by a growing sense of dread. The figure she encountered warned her that the temporal echoes were closing in, threatening to erase her very existence. Eleanor's desperate attempts to escape the temporal echoes proved futile. She found herself trapped in a nightmarish labyrinth of swirling timelines, her mind unraveling as past, present, and future collided. She saw visions of her own life, distorted and twisted, as if the threads of her existence were being pulled apart. In a final desperate act, Eleanor made a choice. She retraced her steps to the moment of her first journey and sealed the conduit, sacrificing her ability to return to her time. The figure she had encountered nodded in approval, revealing itself to be a guardian of time, entrusted with maintaining the delicate balance between past and future. Eleanor Price became a legend, a cautionary tale whispered through the ages. The temporal conduit remained sealed, a silent sentinel guarding against the dangers of meddling with time. The horror she witnessed, the temporal echoes that had haunted her, became a part of the tapestry of history, a reminder of the fragility of existence. And so, the town from which Eleanor had first emerged remained frozen in time, a haunting reminder of the consequences of her actions. Shadows danced along the cobblestone streets, and an eerie silence enveloped the once quaint Victorian town, forever trapped in a loop of temporal despair.
The Sanders family moved into an old two-story house in a remote part of the town, surrounded by woods and long-abandoned barns. The house, while in need of renovations, held promise. However, unbeknownst to the family, the property had a haunting past. Rumors in town spoke of a clown named Marty the Merry, who would perform at children's parties around the area. But these were no ordinary parties. Kids would often go missing, and they were last seen with Marty. As stories spread, Marty disappeared, leaving behind an eerie legend and a town forever scarred. The Sanders consisted of Mr. and Mrs. Sanders, their teenage daughter Alice, and younger son Jamie. Shortly after moving in, Jamie found an old poster in the attic advertising a performance by Marty the Merry with the address of their new home. Thinking it was cool, Jamie hung it in his room. The very next day, strange events unfolded. A distant, melancholic tune from an accordion echoed through the woods. Alice claimed she saw someone peeking through her window wearing a clown mask. However, every time the family investigated, they found nothing. One fateful evening, the family was startled by a knock at their door. Upon opening it, they found a bouquet of deflated balloons with a note, ready for the encore. That night, the horror truly began. The power was cut, leaving the house in darkness. The distant accordion tunes grew louder, and the family heard soft, twisted laughter from outside. Mr. Sanders, trying to be brave, ventured out with a flashlight, only to never return. Mrs. Sanders panicked, trying to call for help, but the phone lines were dead. The front door creaked open, revealing Marty, his clown makeup running, his eyes wild with madness. A deadly game of cat and mouse began. Mrs. Sanders was cornered in the kitchen, and by morning, she too was gone. Jamie hid under his bed, clutching the old poster, but the sinister tunes of Marty's accordion drew nearer until Jamie's room went silent. Alice, paralyzed by fear, managed to hide inside a hollow wall, a remnant from the home's old structure. Through a tiny slit, she watched Marty's distorted figure as he roamed the house. Hours went by, and as dawn approached, Marty, frustrated by his inability to find Alice, set the house ablaze and disappeared into the woods, his laughter echoing one last time. Alice, choking from the smoke and heat, managed to break free from her hiding spot and jump out of a window. Bruised and traumatized, she watched her home crumble to ashes. The town, once again reminded of the horror of Marty the Merry, rallied around Alice. But Marty was never found. Alice, the sole survivor, moved far away, but the echoes of the accordion and the chilling laughter would forever haunt her dreams. Marty's encore was complete, leaving behind a legacy of terror. The town of Atchison, Kansas, was home to one of the most haunted houses in the United States, the Sallie House. Many whispered about the tormented spirits that lurked within its walls, especially that of a little girl named Sally, who had died tragically in the early 1900s. One gloomy evening in October, a group of 4 paranormal investigators, Lucas, Marianne, Ray, and Kiera, decided to uncover the truth behind the home's chilling stories. Marianne and Kiera, experienced mediums, felt a heavy presence as soon as they crossed the house's threshold. They exchanged nervous glances, sensing that something was amiss. Lucas and Ray, the tech experts, began setting up infrared cameras, EVP recorders, and thermal sensors throughout the house. As night deepened, the team gathered in the living room, where a toy ball suddenly rolled from one corner to the center of the room. No one had touched it. Marianne whispered, "She's here." Ray's EVP recorder suddenly played back a distorted voice. "Get out!" The room went cold. Ignoring the warning, Kiera attempted to communicate with Sally. "We're here to help," she whispered. The house responded with a cacophony of loud bangs, making the windows and doors shudder. It was clear they weren't welcome. Suddenly, Lucas screamed. A deep, angry scratch ran across his back. He hadn't felt anything touch him. Marianne grabbed Salt and began forming a protective circle, urging the team inside it. The situation deteriorated rapidly. The furniture levitated and shattered against walls, while whispering voices echoed through the corridors, forming a symphony of distress. Kiera, eyes wide in terror, whispered, "It's not just Sally. There's something else here. Something ancient and malevolent." Lucas and Ray, panicked, tried to access the front door, but it wouldn't budge. The protective circle began to fade as the salt started to burn away. Shadows formed around the room, becoming darker and more pronounced, and Kiera screamed as one reached out and touched her. Suddenly, the house fell silent. Marianne, out of breath, said, "We need to leave." But when they attempted to exit the house, they found themselves back in the living room, trapped in a never-ending loop. Days turned into weeks. The team tried every conceivable way to escape, but found themselves continually led back to the same room. Desperation grew as food and water supplies dwindled. One by one, they began to succumb. Lucas, delirious from hunger, saw Sally in a corner, whispering promises of freedom if he joined her. He agreed, and with that, vanished into thin air. Ray, losing hope, heard the same whispers. One night, he too agreed, leaving Marianne and Kiera clutching each other in fear. Finally, only Kiera remained. She'd watched her friends disappear, and in her despair, she made the same pact, joining the spirits that haunted the house. From that night on, the Sallie House grew even more notorious. Visitors spoke of seeing shadows of the investigation team, joining Sally in her endless play, forever trapped within the walls of the house. The house remained a testament to the power of the spirits, a chilling reminder that sometimes the paranormal world doesn't just communicate, it conquers. The whispers started in the small town of Black Hollow. Rumors spread that some of the townsfolk were acting strangely, almost robotically. Their once vibrant personalities had dulled, replaced by monotony and a strange hollow gaze. Local journalist Rose began to investigate. At first, she suspected some form of mass hysteria. However, as she delved deeper, she discovered a disturbing pattern. All those affected had recently visited the town's new health clinic. Rose, driven by her curiosity, decided to pay the clinic a visit. The clinic was always busy. It had been set up by the government, offering free medical services to the residents of Black Hollow. On the surface, it seemed like a godsend. But Rose felt an unsettling atmosphere as she entered. The staff moved in synchrony, their movements too rehearsed. She asked the receptionist for a tour, feigning interest in a potential story praising the government's healthcare initiatives. After a bit of reluctance, a young doctor named Dr. Hale agreed. As they walked the sterile halls, Rose noticed patients entering a room labeled Neural Enhancement. Every time the door opened, she caught a glimpse of a massive metallic chair surrounded by tangled wires and screens. Curious, she asked Dr. Hale about the room. He explained it's a new project, part of a government initiative. We offer it to select patients, a simple procedure to boost cognitive function. But Rose wasn't convinced. That night, she broke into the clinic to investigate further. In the neural enhancement room, she found files labeled with the names of the affected townsfolk. Each file contained before and after brain scans. The after images showcase strange, intricate patterns, unlike any normal human brain. Suddenly, a voice echoed through the room. "I thought you might return, Rose." She spun around to see Dr. Hale, flanked by two emotionless nurses. "You should have left this alone," he said. Rose held up the files, anger in her eyes. "What have you done to these people?" Dr. Hale sighed. "We've enhanced them, made them better, more compliant." Rose's heart raced as she realized the horrifying truth. The government wasn't just enhancing cognitive function, they were implanting devices to control minds. Black Hollow was just a test site. She tried to flee, but the nurses grabbed her, dragging her to the metallic chair. "You'll understand soon," Dr. Hale said, flicking a switch. Rose screamed, feeling an agonizing pain shoot through her head. When she woke up, she was back in her home. Everything seemed normal, but there was a nagging thought in the back of her mind, a command. She walked to her computer and began typing an article praising the government's new healthcare initiative in Black Hollow. The silent puppets of Black Hollow grew in number, their strings pulled from the shadows. In the heart of the Colorado Rockies stood the grandiose Stanley Hotel, a place of luxury, and according to many, a hub for the paranormal. Elena, a budding journalist, had heard tales of its haunted history and decided to spend a night there, hoping to document any mysterious occurrences. Room 217 was the most notorious. In 1911, a massive gas explosion in that room nearly killed Elizabeth Wilson, a housekeeper. She survived, but was said to linger in the afterlife, keeping watch over the room's inhabitants. Elena, armed with her camera and voice recorder, took the key to room 217. As night fell, she started her vigil. The room was eerie, with shadows cast by the dim lamplight. She heard faint whispers, but they were too indistinct to record. Chalking it up to her imagination, she settled into bed. It wasn't long before the faucet in the bathroom turned on by itself. Startled, Elena went to investigate. As she reached out to turn off the tap, she felt a cold hand over hers. She looked around, but no one was there. The reflection in the mirror, however, showed an apparition of a woman in old housekeeping attire, gazing at her with sad eyes. She looked just like the old photographs of Elizabeth Wilson. Terrified, Elena backed away, only to find the room temperature dropping rapidly. Her breath fogged in the cold air. She heard a soft, mournful tune, as if someone was humming a lullaby. The blankets on her bed started to tuck themselves in, as if someone was preparing the bed for her. Frozen in fear, Elena whispered, "What do you want?" A voice, full of sorrow, replied, "To keep you safe." Understanding dawned on Elena. Elizabeth wasn't there to harm her. She was trying to protect the guests, just as she had done in life. Elena spoke gently. "Elizabeth, it's okay. You can move on." The room suddenly felt warmer. The humming ceased, and when Elena looked in the mirror again, the apparition was gone. Feeling drained, she finally lay down, wrapped in the warmth of the room. The next morning, she checked out, grateful for her haunting experience and the realization that not all spirits meant harm. She wrote her story, and it became one of her most celebrated articles, a tribute to the eternal guardian of room 217 at the Stanley Hotel. Darkness blanketed the small town of Edenbridge. But for Alex Carter, the night was anything but tranquil. As an investigative journalist, Alex was known for diving into the deepest and murkiest waters to uncover the truth. This brought him to Edenbridge, where whispers of a new Zodiac killer ran rampant. The original Zodiac killer had terrified California in the 1960s and 1970s, leaving behind cryptic letters and ciphers. Some were solved, but many of his mysteries remained buried with time. However, Edenbridge was experiencing a hauntingly similar situation. 5 murders had occurred in the past year, all seemingly random but linked by one eerie detail. Each victim received a mysterious letter signed with a zodiac symbol corresponding to their birth sign. And accompanying each letter, a puzzle, cryptic, poetic, and dark. Solve it, and perhaps the next murder could be prevented. As Alex dug deeper, interviewing families of the victims and poring over evidence, he stumbled upon a journal in the town library. It was an old diary that dated back to the time of the original Zodiac killings. The author was anonymous, but had an unnatural obsession with the Zodiac. The diary contained sketches, poems, and unsolved ciphers. Feeling the weight of desperation, Alex decided to release the ciphers to the public, hoping the collective brainpower of the world could decode them. Within days, an online community sprang up, fervently working on the cryptograms. One night, after weeks of chasing shadows, Alex received an anonymous email. "You're getting close, but can you solve the riddle in time? Look to the stars, for they hold the answer." The message was accompanied by a new cipher. As he worked through the night, Alex felt a chill, as if he was being watched. Outside his window, he saw the faint outline of a figure cloaked in shadows. The figure raised a hand, revealing a card with the symbol of Libra, Alex's own zodiac sign. Panicking, Alex quickly shared the new cipher with the online community. Hours seemed like minutes. The pressure was unbearable. Finally, a user claimed to have cracked it. The cipher revealed coordinates. Without wasting a moment, Alex rushed to the location, which was an old abandoned observatory on the outskirts of Edenbridge. Inside, he found walls covered in old newspaper clippings about the Zodiac killer, astrological charts, and hundreds of zodiac symbols. As he delved deeper, he stumbled upon a projector. Switching it on, star constellations appeared on the dome ceiling. Each constellation morphed into one of the zodiac signs, and then into the face of a victim. Alex's face was the last to appear. A cold voice echoed from the shadows. "You shouldn't have come here." Alex spun around to see a man in a hood, the outline of the zodiac symbol embroidered onto it. "Who are you?" Alex managed to whisper. The man stepped into the dim light, revealing a familiar face, the town librarian, a person Alex had consulted numerous times. "I am a disciple," he murmured. "The original Zodiac may be gone, but his legacy lives on through me." This town needed a lesson. The room darkened further, the only illumination coming from the glowing constellations. Alex's heart raced as he remembered the Libra card. However, the strength of a journalist was his quest for truth. As the disciple lunged, Alex, using the weight of the projector, swung it towards him. The impact sent the man reeling, giving Alex just enough time to escape. By dawn, the police swarmed the observatory. The librarian was arrested, his dark obsession exposed. The town of Edenbridge slowly healed, but for Alex, the stars would never look the same again. He had delved into the mind of madness and survived, but at what cost? The Zodiac's shadow, though diminished, still haunted his nights. 1919, New Orleans was not just the birthplace of jazz, it was also the haunting ground of a malevolent presence, the Axeman. The shadowy figure's notorious attacks came without warning, but he left a peculiar signature. Beside every victim, an instrument would be left untouched and pristine, a mocking testament to the dead. Life that was once there. Anna was a violinist. Her fingers danced on the strings, creating music that transcended words. She lived in an old house, handed down through generations, its walls filled with whispers of the past. A house with its own secrets. One evening, Anna received a splintered note with ragged edges and scribbled words. "Every string you play, every note you miss, I hear. Tonight, you play not for an audience, but for your life. Let the strings sing, or else they might be the last thing you ever play." Anna's heart raced. She'd heard of the Axeman and his eerie habit of leaving instruments untouched. She decided to confront this evil. That night, she sat in her dimly lit living room, her most cherished violin in hand. As midnight neared, she began to play. Melancholic tunes filled the room, each note echoing with defiance and determination. The old clock ticked in rhythm with her heartbeats, and the shadows on the wall seemed to dance to her music. However, as the night deepened, she felt a cold gust of wind from an open window. Across the room, the silhouette of a tall man, clutching an axe, became discernible. Panic surged through Anna, but she kept playing, refusing to give in to fear. The Axeman approached, his every step in tune with her music. Anna's fingers moved faster, her bow scraping the strings with urgency. The room became a swirling mix of melodies, shadows, and cold anticipation. Suddenly, one of her violin strings snapped. The haunting music ceased, replaced by a deafening silence. The Axeman stood inches from Anna, his eyes hollow and devoid of humanity. But instead of fear, Anna felt a surge of defiance. With a swift motion, she used her violin bow, striking the intruder. Caught off guard, the Axeman stumbled back, the axe clattering to the floor. Using the momentary advantage, Anna ran, locking herself in an adjoining room. Moments later, police sirens wailed in the distance. Neighbors, drawn by the music and the sudden silence, had called them. The Axeman vanished into the night, leaving behind the chilling echo of his presence. Though he remained elusive, Anna's confrontation became legendary. Her broken violin was displayed in her home, a symbol of resilience against the face of terror. For in that terrifying silence, when the string had snapped, Anna realized the true horror. Music might attract the Axeman, but it was the silence he truly craved. Hollywood, 1953. A time of splendor, movies, and dreams, where hopeful actors and actresses came to stake their claim to fame. But for every dream realized, 100 were shattered. The Scarlet Starlet was a tale as old as the city itself, but its echo would ripple through the decades. Lillian Moreau, with her fiery red hair and alabaster skin, was a vision. Newly arrived from Kansas, she hoped to make a name for herself in the land of movies. Her beauty was undeniable, and her talent was raw. Soon enough, she earned the moniker, the Scarlet Starlet. As Lillian's star began to rise, she attended lavish parties, dined with producers, and mingled with Hollywood's elite. Whispers about her said she might just be the next big thing. But fate had a different script in mind. One foggy morning, as the city began to awaken, a jogger on the outskirts of Griffith Park stumbled upon a chilling sight. Lillian's body, draped in a gown of crimson silk, lay among the trees. The scene was eerily staged, almost cinematic, as if her final moments were crafted by a macabre director. The press was relentless. With every newspaper flashing her face, the Scarlet Starlet's demise was all anyone could talk about. Hollywood was in shock, and the LAPD had a high-profile case on their hands. Detective James Thompson was assigned the investigation. With every turn, the mystery deepened. Lillian's diary hinted at secret rendezvous, hidden letters, and a world behind the silver screen darker than any noir film. James uncovered layers of intrigue. There were tales of a forbidden romance with a high-profile director, allegations of espionage, and connections with the underworld, and rumors of a cursed movie role that many believed brought doom to its actresses. As the days turned into weeks, public interest reached a fever pitch. Hollywood was rife with theories, each more sensational than the last. The enigmatic actor from Europe, with a shadowy past, the jealous co-star, the producer with ties to the mob, each was scrutinized, but the truth remained out of reach. The investigation led James to the Moonlit Club, a secretive gathering spot for the industry's insiders. Here, under dim lights and behind closed curtains, deals were made and secrets traded. And it was here that James met Vivienne, an actress past her prime, with a trove of tales about the old days and the hidden truths of the present. Through hushed conversations and cryptic notes, Vivienne hinted at a clandestine group within Hollywood that protected its own at any cost. Lillian, she implied, had stumbled upon their secrets, and her fate had been sealed. But just as James was on the verge of a breakthrough, Vivienne disappeared, leaving behind only a scarlet rose and a note: "Seek the truth, but tread lightly." The case of the Scarlet Starlet was never officially solved. Over time, the whispers faded, replaced by new tales of dreams and despair. Yet, those who remembered, those who dared to dig deeper, knew that behind the glitz and glamour of Hollywood, secrets remained, waiting for their close-up. And as the city's lights shone bright, casting shadows on the boulevard, the legend of Lillian Moreau, the Scarlet Starlet, lived on, a haunting reminder of the price of fame and the mysteries that lie behind the silver screen.
Thank you for watching. Please subscribe for more content just like this. Until next time, stay curious